Hello and welcome to Time for God from St Peter's, Bexhill. And so we start 2022. Times change, and at this time of year we look back and we look forward. So in the last year or two, what do we look to? What have we taken for granted and what have we learned? Well, I think that we have learned that we've taken far too much for granted. Supplies, the health service, the environment. And we have learned that we really do rely on each other, and that the most important people in the world are often some of the lowest paid. We have learned that what I do really does affect you. Of course, we've always known all this, but the last few years have brought it home in a new way. And one of the best things we have learned is that there are way more good people than bad people. I hope we will continue to learn from the past and not dismiss it as just, the past. And I hope we will all look to a bright future. After all, this is what Epiphany is all about. It is about seeing what is in front of us, about looking to the future, about revelation. We three kings of Orient are bearing gifts we traverse afar, field and fountain, moor and mountain, following yonder star. You'll probably know that they weren't kings at all. That's just a bad translation. They were magi, wise men. And we don't know exactly how many of them there were, but that they gave 3 gifts. And we don't know where they came from. There's a lot we don't know here. But we do know they studied the skies and the wisdom of the ages and got to the right place in the end. You may have heard different ideas about what the star really was. We know that Halley's Comet appeared in 12 to 11 BC, but that would be rather early for our story. Some have suggested it was a supernova, which is possible. We don't really know, but I think it is most likely to have been the planets Jupiter and Saturn. They came together, they lined up in conjunction is the term, with each other 3 times in the year 7 BC. This is fantastically rare and would have made a very bright star indeed, but just for a very short time. Since Jupiter is the royal or kingly planet, and Saturn was sometimes thought to represent the Jews, the conclusion to a magi at least would be obvious. A new king of the Jews was about to be born. The Bible is not offering us a cosy picture book story, the one we've created for ourselves out of it. It is certainly not saying that following stars is an okay thing to do. It is not. Instead, what the Bible gives us is actually political dynamite. Jesus, the Bible is saying, is the true king, the king of the Jews, and King Herod is a false one. We know that Herod died soon after the birth of Jesus. We also know that his sons ruled on. One of them, Herod Antipas, plays an important role in the story later. They were a violent, cruel family and did not take kindly to anyone else laying claim to be king of the Jews. And there's more. The Bible also makes it quite clear that the kingship of Jesus goes further, much further than any Herod could possibly imagine. Any Herod then or since, and there are still quite a few Herods around the place. For at the heart of the kingship of Jesus, and at the heart of all the prophecies about it, is the idea that his rule will bring God's justice and peace to the whole world, to Jew and Gentile alike, to you and me. Here's just one of those prophecies. It's from Isaiah chapter 60. You might recognize it. Isaiah says, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. See, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness is over the peoples, but the Lord rises upon you, and his glory appears over you." Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. Lift up your eyes and look about you. All assemble and come to you. Your sons come from afar, and your daughters are carried on the hip. Then you will look and be radiant. Your heart will throb and swell with joy. The wealth on the seas will be brought to you. To you the riches of the nations will come. Herds of camel will cover your land, young camels of Midian and Ephah, and all from Sheba will come, bringing gold and incense, and proclaiming the praise of the Lord. Wow. This reading from Isaiah may well have been read by the wise men as they studied the sky and wondered about the meaning of life. It was well known at the time, and you can feel that it senses something important is coming. It speaks in terms of a sunrise dawning on a world of darkness, with all the hope and joy and relief that a new day can bring. There certainly must have been something amazing to make those men go on such a long journey. And they bring the famous gifts of gold, incense and myrrh, gifts that people in the ancient world would think of as appropriate for a king or even a god. We know that the gifts point to what is to come: gold for kingship, incense for worship, and myrrh for death. We are also meant to see more echoes throughout the story as a whole, more pointers to what is to come. After all, some 30 years later, Pilate too would be warned in a dream, warned not to do anything to harm Jesus. And Pilate's soldiers would be the first Gentiles since those wise men to call Jesus King of the Jews, even if they do it sarcastically, with a crown of thorns and a throne of a cross. And at that moment, when Jesus finally ascends his throne, instead of a bright star, there will be an unearthly darkness, out of which we will hear a single Gentile voice, the voice of one of those soldiers saying, "Truly, he is the Son of God." All this is contained within Epiphany. It says to us, look at the whole story. Think about what it means for Jesus to be king. Learn and follow. There is a centuries-old saying, "It is solved as we walk." What it means is that it is often when journeying together that new hope, new possibilities emerge. We're not trying to solve everything on our own. Life is a shared experience. Jesus, the Bible tells us, wants to walk beside us in the darkness and bring us new or renewed hope. Walking with Jesus doesn't mean we will never have dark times, just that they are not something we have to face alone. The journey the Magi made wouldn't have been easy. There were probably times when the way seemed long and dark, never-ending, even hopeless. There are many experiences in our lives that can make us feel like that too. And in those times, it's good to have someone with us, someone to share the load. The Magi had each other. They may have friends and family, we may have friends and family, but knowing that Jesus walks with us is reassuring most of all. It can give us the strength to keep going. The wise men followed the star. Its light encouraged them to keep going. Today we follow Jesus. He does the same for us. Let's be still and quiet for a moment and think about those who've shared our life journey with us, people who have helped us on our way, some for maybe the whole of our lives, some perhaps fleetingly, most somewhere in between. Let's also remember that Jesus is always with us. It is solved as we walk with Jesus. Fresh hope will emerge. As we start another year, let us learn again, but not take for granted, the truth that we are all part of God's salvation and can share the light of the new dawn.